just a phenomenon. This guy is absurd as a player, and I love watching him play. He makes all these moments exciting. So to see him get that #1 title back after 2 years where he's been, I guess, pushed on down to #2, I'm sure he's going to be happy with that.
Yeah, we are going to get a few words from him as well, as we do have
Launders
on the line after being crowned the HLTV #1 player of 2021. First of all,
Launders.
how does it feel to be back at the top, man?
What's popular, YouTube? Another day, another demo, and today we have number, drum roll, please, for the 8th player of 2022 on Laos Top 20 of 2022. Who it's going to be is a player who is in the conversation for all-time best in his role, and actually for some all-time best period is in the running, yes, and is somebody who has not had nearly the results that they should garner for their stature as an individual. Somebody who has had a tumultuous career along with everybody who is great individually, but then never finds a team that can get rolling, but who has found success towards the end of the year. Okay, this player his name is, it's 4 letters long. He's a guy who's now playing with his cousin. He's a guy who is on G2. That's right, baby. It's Nico.
What's popular on YouTube? Another day, another demo.
My number 8 player of 2022. And here's the angle for this demo, and here's the angle for Nico in the top 20. This demo is going to be one where we watch him play outside on nuke, which is a core position for Nico across all maps. Right now, G2, they are probably the best nuke team in the world. They beat FaZe on it 2 times in a row. They'd be like heroic vitality. Like, they're beating everyone. Nico, CT side nuke is unreal. CT and T side plays unique. And compared to other players, like Rain earlier this year was best CT nuke player in the world. And then another CT nuke player that I'm trying to think of, Electronic, that we did a demo on. I want to draw a contrast to that. Okay? So we're going to look at Nico play this demo and talk about why this position for him shows why he is the X factor of the team, even on a team that has become more about Monacy than anybody else. That you can't replace the kind of rifler that Nico is. And in some ways, this is Nico's best year, even though it might not be his highest placing on the top 20. And his most promising end, considering you go on in 2023 with a win at the World Final. So why don't we hop into it? Nico, CT side of nuke. When we talk about Nico, CT side of nuke, what we talk about is a player who is really good at the rotations and everything, holding down secret, but playing confident angles outside. Okay, this is an early secret start with the pistol, which is a nice counter to the setup that came through, of course. But is a confident rifler outside and will take fights with rifles that normally only oppers will take. So back big garage to top silo, for example, and is actually a player who spends probably the least amount of time actually inside of Mini, who plays outside. Now, Hunter is going to be the player who obviously doubles up in upper, and Nico is what feels like an opper in the sense that Monacy spends a lot less time outside because Nico's almost always exclusively rifling it. So when we talk about Nico, when we talk about Monacy's stats getting better, we have to talk about how Nico allows him to even have more space and more positions, okay? So Nico's obviously got the aim. We know that. We know he's got one of the best eagles in the world. We know he's got one of the most, he's got like the most calm, some of the most calmness of any like role standout rifler, and then the consistency and all of that. But because he just creates so much space on both CT side and T side with the way he plays specific positions, like we talk about outside, he's responsible for Mini alongside of Hunter, and he kind of takes care of outside almost exclusively by himself, especially when he needs to. And I feel like that doesn't get talked about enough. You know, when we talk about Inferno and Banana, he dominates it. He's not having as much success there, I would say, as he is on nuke with outside, but that's still a core position where he's comfortable, at least, playing it by himself. And the stats show that he's doing a pretty good job. I think he still's got some stuff to figure out on Banana where he can get countered, but for the most part, we have to talk about Nico when we talk about Monacy, I think. So they've been a really good 1-2 punch actually for the roster as a whole. And so here's one of the rarer rounds where we'll see Nico playing in front of the Squeak event. And they're going to phase the smoke on both sides. This is kind of like an Astralis Hall setup, and you know, Inferno, where they're watching it as an X, watching opposite sides as they phase the smoke. And this, of course, just allows you to be able to flank outside, hold lobby. You have a shadow advantage, of course. So you... well, small advantages aren't everything. Okay? Especially when we talk about a player like Stown. You know what I mean? You guys know how I feel about Stown. Okay. So let's see how he decides to play outside and from where. And again, we just heard Monacy take a shot right here. Most of the time, he's really not starting outside, at least not this deep. Playing big garage as an opper is sort of like playing window on Mirage as an opper. Like, you actually can find some situations where there will be a dry cross outside, no one's going to smoke it, because it's so unlikely these days. But at the same time, you don't start there every round. It's pointless. You're mostly going to get smoked out. Okay, looking at big garage here, this position is, I call it a leash, so I don't know what other people call it, especially in Europe. That's what I'm curious about right now. But this position watches primarily the back of Mini for the guy who drops into Mini. Okay, that's the big position that this angle holds, and it holds it so safely that it's unreal. So the thing is that with this angle right here, you cut off everything when it comes to the heaven wrap. Any kind of jump across might get caught, might get by, but once they get past this line that you can also see at the same time, you could take a couple of steps out and see anybody wrapping up to heaven. You could see anybody wrapping into big garage. The credit card lurk is something to think about. But if there's no L smokes or cross smokes to threaten this kind of lurk, NiKo has an incredibly strong position. And this position also, unlike where if you were to play this back here in heaven in CT spawn, you can hear everything in secret. Okay, so this position also covers that. So this is one of the gimmies of CT side rifling outside. If you can play this position and it's open, you should think about playing it, I would say, multiple times a half. At this level, you try to be a little bit more careful about when you choose to play it. But in general, this is one of the most overpowered positions outside, straight up. Like, people don't look at you when you go into Mini. Like, I didn't even know that was going to happen, but it's just like, you catch lurks, you catch even full exec strats, you catch everything, and you have this roof over your head. So you create a really big blind spot for your opponents. It's very, very strong position. I think, you know, it covers so many things. It's just so great for option coverage. Because sometimes you can watch something, but you can't be sure about it. And that's when you have to tell your teammates that if you can't be sure of something, then they have to be aware of that. And when they're aware of that, then they'll take slightly worse spots, and they'll watch two different angles. And that's where the map can actually fall apart, even if it's quietly, even if it's in this small way. That's something to remember, that the whole point of CT side is covering positions to give everybody the strongest spots possible, so you have the most unfair fights, versus the Ts who are attacking, who get to group up, versus you, the CTs, who are spread out, who are playing one or two people in one big area to cover things, right? So you're looking for the most overpowered fights possible. And the whole objective of the T side is to weaken that as much as possible. Compromise positions, weaken spots, weaken angles, and then attack. And that's the whole idea and fundamental idea behind a split. Wow, right, wow, that was as the door was closing. That was cinema right there. Okay. Oh, so they throw the molly down. NiKo throws his molly too. And here, NiKo is just covering the rotation downstairs in case they try to go fast. Heroic are really good at changing tempo, so you have to respect sometimes that they might be willing to try to go fast. And right now, NiKo's holding for the boost in case Cadian gets the op up top and tries to peek down on the stairs for the early kill. If on the T side, you go downstairs and you get the control stairs player right away and they can't fall back, the round is over. Sometimes the round is completely done. Like, you can just go so fast from there. So a lot of lower is just about the CTs knowing when they can rotate and not over rotating. But as long as they do rotate and something comes, or they have enough players upstairs, that's what's really important. So this is kind of crazy. There's all kinds of risks being taken. There's no one spotted. You would think that this ends up at ramp at some point because there's nothing actually upstairs, nothing crossing. But Heroic, we're just trying to get some nades out. But then Monacy finds an opening kill. Taking down Cadian at this point of the round was a very suspicious round. So this is a huge find. Now, this angle right here that Nico's taking is a big risk, right? Because he's exposed to silo. But it's a cool risk to take because... what are the odds that they go late silo when they could be crossing outside after they just threw a couple of smokes? Well, this might be the right idea. Now, I don't know if there's a chance that... Okay, we'll see. Oh, he saw it just before the smoke came up, but no damage. Okay, so right here, this is the paint can smoke. Of course, you guys know this. It's become used so much that... it's still useful, but at the same time, sometimes you'll just get pre-fired inside of it. People can kind of stand underneath it. Tessus just tries to go for something, walking back in a mini. And it's smart from Nico to just use that as a bait. It's become just so run-of-the-mill to throw the paint can smoke because it was so OP at first. Well, at least just gave you a chance at first. That now it's not quite as strong because people know how to play under it. So sometimes this play comes up where a player will phase the cross smoke and then they'll try to push through as it's phased, or someone will flash somebody at the tail end of the smoke to push through as everybody else walks down secret. And we see Furia as a team who does a similar strat where they come out of Squeaky on T side and they send Art out. They throw the lurk smoke so that they can all get down the vent, but Art comes flying through the smoke. And the idea is that if people start spamming the smoke and try to nade it and think that you're just going to try to run down into lower, then Art will come out and kill you upstairs as his teammates are getting into the lower site. So it kind of works in the same way. So as you can see, Nico being very aware of the lurk at the tail end of the smoke. I didn't pre-watch this game, so I didn't know if there'd be a full exec behind it, but that's, look, he just tried to phase it right on the timing. So you could see it's becoming more common, and you could tell by Nico that he was ready for something like that. I don't even know where that came from, but all right, that's actually in the last match that Nico played against FaZe. They still won, but not because of Nico. Nico actually had a really hard time on CT side outside because the Tech-9s actually were overrunning him standing in front of Mini. Now, again, I talked about this earlier, but like when we talk about Nico, we talk about a player who almost exclusively rifles without a roof over his head outside and plays downstairs sometimes in secret. He has to be responsible for this, but he is the kind of most flagrant peeker outside. And I think the craziest part is just the amount of times it has to do with secret. So, okay, let's see how he responds to this. This smoke doesn't allow him to, kind of one-way this position, but it allows him to scare his opponents into thinking that he might be one-waying on top of the railing. So he stood up there, then that's one thing. So he doesn't see anything coming fast, which I think is huge. And he's constantly checking to see if Heroic are like speeding up at any point. I feel like a lot of top players have just been have had a lot more respect for Heroic when it comes to talking about them. I gotta say, I think that of any player that I've ever met at events, I don't think I've met anyone who has had more beef with players than Cadian when it comes to... Yeah, just in general. Like I think at Antwerp, I swear every elevator that I got into, he was talking shit about someone or someone was talking shit about him. He was mad at somebody. People were mad at him, but yelling during practice, some beef about something, play style or otherwise, or whatever it was. So much trash talk in and out of the server with Cadian. And I think at that point, like that was... Cadian coming out of the Blast Fall final in 2021, getting booed to all hell, coming into Antwerp, haha, comedian, not doing too well, really recovering at the end of this year, his storyline, and then I think just earning respect to players who, they're working just as hard, and so they know when a team is working really hard, and I think that they respect what Heroic have been able to accomplish. But Yeah, I think part of that with Cadian and what we're seeing with Nico, because I'm thinking about watching. I was watching a few of the Nico versus FaZe demos on this map as well, and there wasn't really the same level of, ooh, I think they're coming fast. Ooh, they might be coming even faster. It feels like, wait, what did I just say? Anyways, it feels like Nico is a bit more aware of those timings, which kind of, to me, feels like, wow, Heroic have done a good job of earning the respect of their opponents if they can kind of precondition people into knowing that they can move really fast in some of the early rounds. So you've only seen Nico try, we haven't seen Nico try this push before. The massive value in this push, of course, is that once he gets this kill, he also has just deep vision right here, right? Deep vision. You know what I mean? It's such a long line right here. Whereas, let's say he kills down and he was over here and he got this, he still wouldn't have deep vision, right? So this specific push just gives him so much area of information. And we see this group up from the T side. Worst nightmare on T side. The map feels tiny for them. Look at their fog of war. Everything outside of this is gone. If they had one player outside and they saw Nico fall back, then their fog of war is massive, right? Compared. So the fact that Nico searches this kill out, again, just speaks to how much value he adds on both CT and T side when he's playing alone with these pushes. And some players have had like an opera push with them and their rifle, and usually they'll do that when things don't go well. They might have the rifle or an opera push at the same time. But in this game, it's going pretty well. And the map just shrinks instantly, and then the T's make mistakes right away. Like, you could say that round has so much to do with Nico getting that kill. So here you could die from silo. Of course, there's a small timing where he could get caught crossing. But he waits until way later to try this position, which is kind of interesting. He really just opens up as the rounds roll on and the wins start coming in. All right, let's try to... Okay, now it seems like it's going to be upstairs. So what we just saw was a ramp push, and then it looks like a Cadian lurk outside that came late. So they take Hooksy out. Now they have upstairs down to one player. They don't know where Nico is, but Nico's probably playing outside. So in my opinion, this is like the T's straight to try to get up to Heaven into try to secure a bomb plant, because Heaven is probably a really unlikely spot for one person to be. And then Nico's rotation in this information comes down to a little bit of communication and where the T's might be, but you know, we're not expecting him to go ramp in this spot. Although if he does go ramp with the amount of time left off, then if they come late ramp, then he might be able to get kills and win the round. If he goes into Squeaky, if he goes into vent and his teammate has pushed Squeaky, then his teammate can help him get up the vent, which is actually a faster rotation than, for example, going back outside. And if he goes back outside, well, that's fine, but it's also one of the least tricky rotations, I guess. So if the T teams are upstairs, it feels like they're going to be the most comfortable dealing with that. So let's see what he tries to do. Okay, so he's going with option A right here, that if they do come late through ramp and come back down, then he has a flank. And then also, if he takes this risk and they're not here, then he can flank them in Heaven, which is a very strong spot because it'll be one of the T's strongest post-plant positions. Now, getting up the ladder is another thing, because there are still 3 T's here. So if you go outside, you can clear some of the angles that people are watching, of course. And, Tessus was in Heaven and no-scope Nico. That was actually crazy. I love this crosshair, by the way. I was using the white plus for a long time. Did you guys know if Nico doubled his sense, he'd be 2 times as good? Crazy fact, but real, and something to think about. Okay, so closing the door and then playing back here. Normally, you're taking the fight to the left side, okay? And yeah, you take an off angle to the left side, and if they break open control window, then for example, then you can fight them there. But sometimes people will come up the left side and then hold the control window, and then you shoot them in the side. Very good off angle right here. But you're going to kind of patrol. You might switch up. You might look at the doors. But right here in the spot, when you close the door early and they don't hear it, you're feeling pretty good. But the reason you're not holding the right side is because they don't have a real good fight here on lower. if they come up the right side of the control just to check if someone's back sight. If there's someone in the control window tucked in, then they'll kill you. So that's why you can be kind of comfortable here. Well, Nico has a very good spot downstairs, so I don't think there's a good reason for him to move. His two teammates upper, and right now that's not very comfortable, but okay. Now they have confirmation, so okay. You can hear Cadian by the vent. And you can actually go for the upstairs rotation. The vent player there was opping towards heaven, so Nico mauling that allows Huxley to potentially get out. But Yabi has one too, and this round is lost, but because it's Nico, I mean, we'll see, but I think they should just be playing both vents right now, and yeah, okay. So yeah, the round is lost, but it was still a good round with stuff to talk about. So there's Nico, CT side of nuke, core position, great frags. You see how much control and space that he gets, how few times he loses duels, and why, for me, he's the number 8 player of 2022. So let me know what you think about that, and thank you so much for watching. Let me know who's number 7. Take care.